feeling the dantian. This sense that everything is pulling into it. But when we're sitting down like this, you can imagine you're sitting on the floor, like cross-legged, or just imagine that the ground is the level of the seat of the chair. So we have this triangle here with the base on the ground, on my ground, coming up. You can either think of it as coming up into this energy point here in the middle of the brain or the top of the head. And then you've got this other triangle here, which homes in on, you can either think dantian or the tailbone. So we have those two triangles. So this is, it's just a center that is drawing into itself all the time. We have to just try and catch the mind that is with that. It is, in Tai Chi, they call it the ruthless mind. So it's a mind that is detaching all the time. It's the opposite of the empathetic mind, the mind that is just reaching out in order to feel. So this is homing in. So when you have the mind here, or when you have that ruthless mind focused here, then there's a sense that you can observe the world clear and clean, not biased by your own feelings. You can just look at everything dispassionately, not cruelly at all, but just, see things for what they are. Okay, and now let's just work that region. Trying to get it a little bit like a lung. Think of it as this rubbery balloon or bladder that you're squeezing and then stretching. Into prayer again. So we have this dantian mind, sort of detached, concentrated, undistractable mind. And then we have the compassionate or the impressionable mind, the mind that just sees things and is affected. Just trying to balance everything, really, just trying to find the yin and the yang, separate them out so they're clear, and then get them working together as a system. That's Tai Chi, that's Taoism, basically. Now let's just bring the hands up and out to the side, but with the palms facing out like this, and just keep it stretching. Shoulders are relaxing. This is a real classic Qigong pose. Ronit teaches Qigong, and this is one of their basic exercises. They stand like this for half an hour. They're standing when they do it. Nitsan used to promise, and when we used to practice with Nitsan, they had these really sort of sunk, a bit like riding horse postures. And people would just say to him, "Does it ever stop hurting?" He says, "Yes, it does, but only when you let the pain completely engulf you." He used to have a wonderful saying, "The peace that we're looking for is always the other side of the pain. So you have to pass through the pain to get there." And then bringing the hands back round slowly into prayer again. And reconnect to the Dan Chen. And then let's try the stick. So first of all, behind. Rolling it, trying to find the place on the spine that wants to be pushed in. So for a lot of people, it's quite high. It's like basically where your bra would fasten, or where your bra does fasten. But for me, it's just low down. It's sort of here. You just got to roll it around and just find the place that wants the stick to rest on it and help it push in. Like if we have like a vertebra out of place, it's almost like a dimension of existence that isn't available to us. So it's very much a reduced life, which a lot of us choose, because when life is full, it's actually difficult. There's so much feeling. And then once you find it, rest there. But there's this gentle pressure, like an insistence at that point on the spine. This is gradually working it forwards. And because of that, the heart is lifting. You think of like a poor posture with the shoulders slumped forwards and the head craning forwards. So we just want to get away from that. So this very vertical, almost aloofness that enables you to just look over the shit and see the horizon. And then let's twist from here. So rather than having it behind the neck, so you can't twist very much. Keep on going, just let it sort of oil the spine. So gradually the movements increase. Let's try a few behind the neck. So that same posture, still feel the corset of the waist. The more I twist, the more I extend upwards. Feel the spirit. So what's actually drawn the turn out of you? Imagine there's someone over there to your left and they call your name and you just turn, oh, hello. Yeah, so there's like a brightening. Imagine the expression, the delighted surprise on your face as you turned to encounter that person you haven't seen for a long time, or a child even. There's a wonderful painting, I think it's in the National Portrait Gallery. I think it's Joshua Reynolds, of just a young, well-dressed young man, teenage boy, and he's got such a fleeting look of startled delight on his face. You just think it's just like a miracle, how he must have taken him weeks to paint that picture, and yet he captured a moment that probably lasted for less than a second. Good. And now let's put the stick down and just try a few with the hands on the head. The tilting. Again, I want to get my spine really upright, so I have to pull this point in the back in to push this up, and then bending to the side. Feel the muscles either side. So there's muscles here and there's muscles here. So I contract these and that will stretch these. So they both feel tense because they're both stretched to their tight. These are pulled because they're contracted. These are stretched because they're extended. And then I tighten here. That starts these. So really, what we're trying to do is basically keep the system constantly under tension. But it's not a locked tension. It's a tension that's sort of moving. So this is tightening, this is being stretched, and then it tightens here, and these are being stretched this side. So I have to keep both sets of muscles sort of connected with tension, so that when one starts working, the other side immediately responds. If it gets slack and flabby, then there's like a delay in the response time. Your reactions will just be slow. You'll be half asleep. Not relaxing into a slackness. It's relaxing into the proper tension. It's the same with all of our actions, even breathing. Breathing, I breathe in, I breathe out. So we want to feel the muscles associated with each of those phases, and then keep those muscles constantly bound together, so that when I tighten one set, the other set is immediately stretched, and vice versa. Good. Now let's just reach up. Just feel the head, like someone's sawn the top of your skull off, and it's just beaming this light out. But this is a posture that doesn't think. The mind is not thinking. The mind is illuminating. the space that you're in. The thinking mind is sort of gathering images and then complaining about them, basically, criticizing. Whenever you meet like a famous person, like a famous actor or famous musician, often they're such lovely, open people that are really enthusiastic about everything, including you. And you can see why they're famous. So it's like there's a constant givingness. They have like an awareness that is just illuminating everything. Too much, of course, it becomes narcissism. Like everything, there has to be a balance. And then back down. And now taking up the towel. Arms outstretched, hands pulling apart to keep the towel stretched and tight, and the shoulders relaxing. A sense of energy constantly flowing down the arm from the neck. And that's just produced by my relaxing shoulders. Remember, in Tai Chi, all the verbs are gerunds. They all end in ing. They're continuous. It's the continuous present. I'm not relaxed. I'm relaxing. If I'm not relaxing, then I'll be doing the opposite. So it's continuous. And now just turning and trying to keep everything flowing, keep the shoulders relaxing, keep the hands pulling apart, keep that point on the spine pulling in so that you don't droop. And it's got that same sense of spirit, this same sense that the stimulus for your action comes from outside. Someone's calling you and you just turn to face them. And then someone calls you the other side. And all the time in the background, that ruthless mind in the Dantian. The saying Tai Chi, 25% of the mind is always in the Dantian. So there's that base, that foundation of detached ruthlessness that then enables everything else to really flourish. It's like the root of the plant. And the root in Tai Chi is very much associated with that detached ruthlessness, so the Dantian. All of these things, they have to be done for quite a while. We should really be doing all of these for a good 5-10 minutes each, and just slowly let them extend and develop. Keep the mind with it and just see where it wants to take you. That's the spirit of the exercise. The same way it's the spirit from outside that's calling you around to each side. There's a spirit in the exercise that is wanting to go somewhere you've never been before. It wants to develop. And it's our own habitual lazy mind that prevents that happening. Come back to prayer for a sec. Just feel the Danchen here. And you just feel it. If you're, we tend to think, oh, mind in the Danchen. You think the more collapsed I can get, the more I'm in the Danchen. But that's the wrong presence. So it's not the lazy, slumping Buddha with the big paunch. It's very much the Magan David, the Jewish star. So this triangle and this triangle. And they're wanting to drift apart. There needs to be overlap. I am the overlap, if you like, of those two triangles. But they're wanting to drift apart. And of course, one day they will. Feel the hand, the front hand. Remember in the old days when you go over a hill in a car, like your dad was driving or something, and there was this sense of almost like your stomach came up into your heart. So that sort of feeling. So it's like this is coming up, and then it drops down. So there's that feeling of almost like hovering here before it descends. Like throwing a stone up in the air, or a book. Imagine throwing a book up in the air. So it's released, it flies up. So that book has gravity operating upon it all the time. And once the energy that I've given it, the kinetic energy, runs out, it will start to pull down from gravity. So what we're looking at is that sort of overlap point where it goes from up to down or from left to right. So and just really feeling that, stretching that moment to really relish it. Just being conscious of gravity all the time, conscious of the background forces, if you like. So gravity, the resistance of the air, everything that's operating, the fan above my head, the sunlight coming through the windows. It's all there. It's all part of the picture. And then slipping into the second one. That's it. Those stories of people that go exploring in the jungle, for example, and they have a guide, a local guide, a native guide. And what they'd say is that the guide has to point everything out to them because they don't notice it. They're so busy just surviving and getting through the undergrowth that they don't see these things that the guide is pointing out. So if they didn't have the guide, it would be a much less experience. So the guide is just, he has to be awake. He knows that he has to be alert and vigilant because for him, it's like a matter of life and death because it's a dangerous environment. So he just sees everything. Doesn't just see all the things, he sees the signs. And we've sort of lost this. And we just want to imagine the sort of really lively, acute sensitivity you would need to be picking up all of those. That spirit. That's what we've totally lost now. Okay, now let's try just the circle one. So getting the turn in, I'm turning pretty much as I was on the previous one. I'm also going up and down, and that's producing sort of like a circle. Trying to keep these joints open, so as I come into this foot, don't let this collapse in. Both knees are always working away from each other. So when you see someone doing it with the right legs, it almost looks like they're not turning because you don't see a lot of movement in the legs. And there is that tendency. So we have to make sure that the waist is turning, but it's not pulling the knees in. It's good. And then just change direction. Then let it wind down. Good. And now just backwards and forwards. So let's try do this one. This is the one that everyone likes. So as I fill the leg, the energy sort of squeezes into the opposite hand. Also squeezes into the opposite leg, but we feel it because the arm's coming out. Feeling the point where it changes from going forwards to going back and vice versa. And just letting that region stretch, almost like I slow down to a halt. I'm sinking my weight back, but this leg is already pulling me forwards before I've even quite got 100% here. So there's that overlap between the two legs. And that just means that the changeover from one direction to the other is just very smooth, almost inevitable. I'm not having to make a decision, not with my mind. My spirit just catches the moment. My spirit creates the moment. And then the other foot. Good. And now it's figure of eight around the hips, around the feet, going around the outside edge, through to the big toe. It's the big toe pressing down, remember, that pushes it into this heel. Yeah, so this is just waving hands in the clouds, effectively. Remember that exercise? And then let it become the figure of 8 exercise. So waving hands in the clouds, or the 2 circle exercise, the figure of 8 round the hips exercise. It's just really the top 2 circles of the figure of 8 here. So this circle, and then the circle with the top circle with this hand here. So now we're letting the bottom circle expand. That's the one that reaches down the leg and under the foot. And that's the one that's with the energy. So here my weight is in this foot. This hand is sneaking back. So it's with the energy which is expressing in the empty foot here. And then I pull with this foot, that's scooping around the bottom of the figure of 8 in order to pull me back into it. It's like the bottom of the figure of 8 is doing the work. It's reaching here and then pulling me across. The top of the figure of 8 is just expressing something. It's not really working. The top of the figure of 8 is more for sort of reaching into the space we're in, interacting with our world. The bottom of the figure of 8 is for interacting with the ground and getting us moving. And now let's try that little bit of the form again. First thing I have to be able to do really is just lift a foot and then stepping out. It just goes out and then I decide to move. And then just relax the hands down and just with your spirit, with your mind, just lift the wrists. Oh, that's amazing. It's magic. And then mind in the elbows. Oh, and they're with the dantian. So they're heavy and dark. And then basically the whole of the form really is the 2 circle exercise. So this arm is going to do a circle. So it goes forwards and then yields. This one does a circle. And then this one continues around its circle as you step out. And at the end of the posture, I'm just trying to retrieve the vertical. Really letting this sacrum pull down so that the top of the head and the heart can lift upwards. So I'm sinking down. And then just stepping out and just be very careful. Yeah? So you can put the foot down, but you don't have to put the weight in it. And then the whole thing balloons and then comes back. So now most of my weight is in the foot now that just stepped out. And then circling with this hand. Circling with this hand. Circling with this hand again, stepping forwards and the same way they say 25% of the mind is in the dantian. It's a bit like saying, 25% of your mind is always with gravity. is always with this sort of prevalent, pervasive force that's just trying to draw you down all the time. And so if we lose that, then we'll just get too much into our movements and we'll just come up, we'll lose the connection with the ground. This is where the practice comes in. You know, I have to be able to do these things in my sleep. So this is being pulled down the sacrum, and it's that really that lets the hands come up. Sacrum is pulling down. If I can keep part of my mind with the heavy sacrum and almost let the arms take care of themselves, then it will just look much more like real Tai Chi. Circling, bringing the weight into this leg, relaxing. My sacrum is being pulled down, that allows my wrists to go up. And then if anything, here you come up a little bit, so you can't keep going down, otherwise you'll kill your legs. And then way, reach forwards. Circle, I'm yielding. This one's reaching forwards, helping the person through. Then the other one can just reach up to their shoulder and then striking underneath their ribs and then pulling their hand down. All the time, just trying to keep part of my mind with gravity, with the pull down of my sacrum. Okay, let's try it once more. Just sinking. Good. Okay, so let's just bring it to here. Managed to do a whole lesson without riding horse. Next time we'll do 45 minutes of riding horse just to compensate. Feel this. Yeah, just that springiness in the legs, the real willingness of the legs to bend. If someone was to come behind you and just press very gently on your shoulders or the top of your head, you just start sinking into the legs. Okay.